Katie woke up in her room. She was lying on the floor, not knowing how she got there. She had dark splotches stained on her dark blue hoodie with a big yellow M on it. Everything was sore and she didn't want to move. She had a headache and was tired, even though she was sure she just woke up. She looked up at her alarm clock and noticed it was tipped on its side. It read 9 o'clock a.m., which confused Katie because her mother would have come in and woken her up earlier. She stood up slowly. Mom must have went to a meeting or something. She wouldn't have woken me up earlier. Katie tried to reason with herself, but she had a feeling something was terribly wrong. Katie walked through the hallway and noticed there were dents in the walls. There were dark red stains on the walls, and Katie immediately knew something was wrong. But of course, her mind was trying to reason with her. Maybe somebody spilled paint on the walls and smacked something against them. That stench is probably just a smell of the trash needing to be taken out. She started to freak out. There were dark splashes everywhere. She knew it was blood. Katie remembered something, and the memory scared her worse than anything that had ever scared her. She was watching a figure stabbing a lump that laid on the floor. Then the figure turned to her. She tried to push the thought out of her head and ran straight to her parents' bedroom, hoping that the memory was just part of the nightmare she had. Oh, how wrong she was. When she reached the door to their bedroom, she stopped. She had a good idea of what she was going to see. She slowly opened the door and was about to scream when a thought made her stop. Katie stared, wide-eyed, at the lifeless bodies in front of her. Tears started running down her face as she realized her parents were dead. She backed out of the room, shaking. Katie ran back into the kitchen. She was breathing heavily. Questions, thoughts, and horrifying images raced through her mind. She hoped and prayed that she was still dreaming. She picked up a clean knife laying on the counter and ran a finger across the blade, cutting her finger. She placed the knife back on the counter quietly and ran back to her room. She ran to the window and opened it. She was on the second floor, and she wasn't going to attempt to jump out the window. She ran through the kitchen and down a hallway. When she reached the stairs, she froze. What if the killer was down there? What if they left? He would have no reason to worry about them. She wished her mind would stop talking to her and slowly walked down the stairs. She wanted to be quiet just in case. A new question ran through her mind. How did she end up on her bedroom floor with blood on her? Why didn't she get killed too? Katie stepped into another hallway inside. She was almost to the door, just a couple rooms left to pass through. She went to open the next door when another thought came through. Why was that knife on the counter? It was odd. Her parents don't usually leave knives out on the counter. Katie always washed any knife she used and placed them back on the counter just to annoy her mother. Then she froze in step. What if she killed them? Katie shook her head. Why would she have killed them? She had no reason to. Plus, she would have remembered, wouldn't she? But it all added up. Katie pulled the door open in the room and ran through the rooms. She needed to get out of there fast. She finally came to the front door and slipped her shoes on. She then fumbled with the lock. She was breathing heavily, and panicking wasn't helping her with the situation. She finally unlocked the door and stepped outside. Then, Katie was pulled right back into the house. She let out a scream before her mouth was covered. She saw that the person who was covering her mouth was none other than her brother. She had forgotten about him. He was always in his room, rarely ever coming out. She stared at him, wide-eyed. Suddenly, he pulled her into a hug and laughed. Did you have fun yesterday, Catherine? We actually spent family time together. Oh, if only Mom and Dad could have joined us. Katie was surprised by what he had said. The she have a hand in the murder of her parents? Of course I did. It was the best day ever. Katie pulled away from her brother and smiled at him. Yes, Brandon, I did have fun. How about we go see if the neighbors want to come over for dinner?